may think that you're the smartest person, but you come outside one time and you say something and you've convinced the public that you're not that smart, and they're running with that fact about you. He's not really smart, but you think you're smart. So I had conversations with people like Plato, with people like John and whoever else that is around, and what do you think I can do? What do you think? What program do you think will fit my personality as you know me, right? And so they'll tell you, I want you to, you can do that leadership program or do that psychology program because that is what you've always done. That is how you can tell your story. That is where you find your zone. So, like, in addition to what Olivia has said, like, plan yourself, find your niche. Never forget to have conversations with the people who know you.
For me, the most difficult question would be, tell me about yourself throughout your application process.
Yeah.
It really seems that simple. When someone tell me about yourself, they're expecting you to pull out your real self, the self that is going to be out there in the public space, the self that's going to represent you forever. And there's no holding it back. There's no putting it back. When you put it out, that's what it's going to be. When I was recommended for the Obama Leaders Africa program by the CEO of REACH, the Honorable Gigi Bofadegbelia, I was holding back because I've always been in leadership, but I was not really certain that I would make a good faith. But sometimes you have that doubt about yourself. Even as a medical student leader at the time, I was still holding back, and it was like maybe I will not make a good faith for the Obama Leaders Africa program. In fact, there are over 200,000 applications that may be going in. But one thing you always need to do is to forget about how many other people are running the race with you. Look at yourself and know that you are the most important person in that race. And that's how you win. That's the winning spirit. And so during the extension of the normal application period, that was the time that I applied. And then when I opened the application, I saw all these essays, and there was this part of it again, the same old question, tell me about yourself. I'm like, what the hell? Is this how it's going to be all the time? But then I had to muster the courage and do my application. But before then, I had done several applications. I got a admission at the University of Aarhus Medical School while I was at Cottington, pursuing my bachelor's degree. I got several, even at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, I have also gotten an admission. So I have gotten several admissions from different universities around the world. And so this was just another opportunity to apply and have a win. Okay. And so I put through my application and I was called for an interview. And I think, like you, Tony, it was really an amazing process. And that's what it is. Always, when you're running a race, always only focus on yourself. That is not being cynical, but it is just that you're choosing you at that moment. And this year, what I'm doing is that I have a target. My target is to put in about 20 to 50 applications. That's huge. But by the end of January, I want to have like 20 applications all across the place. There are 12 persons that will be taking for the Obama Scholars Program and currently applying. So challenge yourself. It doesn't matter. The least thing they can tell you is no. And guess what? You're not going to publicize that no. Only you will tell that story. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. I think one of the things that we tend to take for granted in setting ourselves up for applications to college, even me while I was in the U.S., a whole different mindset to say I'm applying for my master's today or I'm doing my doctorate right now. Because first of all, the applications are awful. They're long, right? And it requires not just facts from outside. It requires, like she mentioned, your emotion have to be into it. And when someone reads your story, they're able to tell you, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. So this then brings me to something I think all of us may have interest in. So you mentioned about applying to about 20 to 50 schools this year. And one of the questions that come up a lot is application fees. So what's your strategy? Because I have mine. But what's your strategy, in terms of applying to multiple schools, what would you recommend to someone? Because most of the schools applications like $80 for application, $100 for application, right? So if you do the math for about 20 schools, that's about 1,000 plus, right? But what is your strategy? I've been to a lot of schools and I've never paid for application fee ever in my life. The Harvard, the Princeton, the Vanderbilt, never paid, but it's costly. What do you do for someone who's not like me, who's living in the U.S.? What would you recommend um, to to people about that?
That's a great question. When I graduated from Cardinal in 2015, I already cultivated a dream of becoming a medical doctor. Um, but I derailed myself from that dream a little bit because I served on the LPRC scholarship, and they had informed me that I would be sent out of the country to do a master's in uh, chemical engineering. And so after quite a while, like about a year, that dream was not coming to a reality. I devised a method that I use for most school, and I called it EOI, expression of interest, and it worked. What you do is that you get the school's email or a professor in the department that you wish to apply, and you send a letter that, yeah, a letter of intent that has a summary of your background, your dream and aspiration. It's almost the same thing that the Europeans ask for the motivation and motivation statement or something. You send that letter to them and to as many schools as possible. And the good thing is, whether or not they will accept it, they will reply. When they reply, most often they will have a rule out of how to go about the application process. When you get to where they're asking for an application fee, Gigi always say, Gigi provided my mentor, he always say that there's this huge chunk of money for people like us who don't have it. Okay, it's just somewhere. So you can apply to the admission office asking for application fee waiver because you're from a tier one country that don't have it. And most at times the least thing they can tell you, like I always say, is no. When they tell you no, you move on to the next school. But if they don't tell you no and waive your application fee, then you have an application in. You can send as many applications as possible. There's so many schools. And right now, I just found out that this December and up to March, the schools in Europe, most of the schools, I just applied to the University of Edinburgh to do a master's in global health policy because I'm graduating in March with my medical degree from the AM Douglas College of Medicine. So I want to do a master's in global health policy. So I applied to that school, and the application is the fee is free. And most of the schools there are doing almost fee waiver for the holiday season. So you have to, the right timing and be strategic. Make it always research. Always research. They say when you want to have something from the library, you go where you put it in the books. Don't be like that. Thank you.
So, what are your thoughts?
So for me, I was able to save. That's why I had this 2-year gap so that I could volunteer and work for both experience and some money. So I was able to afford some of the fees. But as we said, always check for waivers. Most universities have waivers. And for universities in Europe, most of them don't really ask for application fees because that's where I was really interested in going. So that's where I sent in most of my applications. But the university I attended, I had to pay 100 euros as my application fee. But at that point, thankfully, it was something I could afford because I planned for this thing, like I saved for it. So if you don't have the cash, check for waivers. If all of the universities you are checking out, all of them need you to do some kind of payment, then you need to do your scale of preference. Like, so I can't apply to all of these universities, but what are my top 3? What are my top 10? I don't know, 10, like a huge number, but what are you really interested in doing? Which university are you really interested in going? Where do you think you would get this network, the programs, the research, the faculty? Those are the things you look out for, right? So you set your top three and then start asking around. So it's good to ask. If you can't find a waiver, ask around and go for it.
Yeah, I think shortly to add to both points, which are amazing points, is you have to learn to be a storyteller. And I think uh, as a Liberian, I don't have a choice but to tell my story because there's a lot of story to tell. And so there may be waivers, but if you don't know how to tell your story, you may not get a waiver. All right. So you want to be able to be emphatically clear. I cannot afford this. I cannot. You can build your story around that, right? But I cannot afford this at this moment. And you want to be able to also add because when you're telling your story, you're not really. I think I've never mentioned that you're not trying to beg. What we call it now is you are trying to add value, right? So you want to let them know that they'll miss out if they don't take you. Okay, that's a strategy. So you're telling your story and you're letting them know all of the things that you've done and you're able to do, what you're able to bring to their school. And if you tell your story properly, I tell you, I can't tell the last time. I think when I was applying to Yale, I paid, because they get some man, what you tell a story, you go, oh, you kind of, you pay. You have to be, you have to expect those ones. But on the vast side of things, if you tell your story properly, you will not pay a dime. You just have to seek out the information. Information is always there. Try to find it and tell your story properly. And I believe that will help you in that process.
Yeah, and I think all of them touch on the things that I should have been doing. Is just telling my story. But like Deval mentioned, almost every institution has some form of waiver, and it would not just be waived for some schools. Like most of the top Ivy League schools, for example, it's not just going to be waived, but it's going to be work. For an example, they might ask you to attend a webinar. Say, hey, come on a Zoom call and waive your application fee. It's because sometimes free things have no value, right? And so we're waiving your fee, but work for it. Attend a 1 hour training, attend a 1 hour recruitment program. So a lot of us who are in Liberia, we check a lot of social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. Really, some of us, we live in our emails. I check my emails more than I check my text messages, just because that's where I live. My work is there, my school's there, my hustle is there, and so when you realize that everything is where your values at, that's where you spend most of your time. So one of the strategies is to just constantly check your email as much as possible. There will be some kind of hey, this is the 90 meetings giveaway for fee waiver type of thing. I want to talk about professional development with respect to the value it has to your academic journey overseas. Just how important it is. And I know you guys, I know about your organization, I know about the things that you do at Smart Europe and what you do as well. With respect to college application, where does that come in? It could be volunteerism, it could be a nonprofit you founded, it could be something you run, what you're running right now, or your professional job. It could be a banker, whatever you do, like an insurance broker. I know a guy in the States who was an insurance broker in Sierra Leone, but he went into an engineering program at the University of Kentucky. And we had similar things like this, and they asked him, you worked almost 10 years as an insurance broker. Why are you applying as an engineer? He said, well, I want to balance the experience. Right? So you can take that public administration experience and apply to other people who did math and went to law school. Right? So I want to know from you guys' experience, professionally, how did that help your application? How do you think the job that you did in your community or your nonprofit organization, how did those things help your job, your school application process?
Okay. Before I answer the question, let me just maybe throw a small question to you. All right. If you had to select from two people, you're like an admissions counselor or you're on the admissions panel, and you had to select from two people, and one person tells you, my mom is poor, my dad is poor, I'm from Liberia, please pay my school fees, right? I want to become a doctor. So my mom is poor, my dad is poor, I'm from Liberia, and I want to become a doctor, please pay my school fees. Another person says, I took my little brother to the hospital, and he was in my hands, and there was no bed, he died in my hands. And so to ensure that another little brother does not die in the hand of his family members, I want to become a doctor and make sure I change that. Which of the candidates would you select?
Second,
Why?
you're trying to solve a problem.
He's interesting, right? Professional development makes you an interesting candidate. Schools are looking to boast about their students. Vanderbilt is going to boast about a place, I can tell you that for a fact. They have a Vanderbilt scholar out in Liberia speaking to young people who are trying to find, a Vanderbilt person is doing that. They like to boast. Your professional development predisposes you to be an interesting person. Because the fact is you're not the only person applying to the school. They have students in America who take gap years, just sitting down preparing to apply to the schools we're applying to. We really don't have the idea or the concept of gap years in Liberia. We barely. Okay, we introduced that through our education advancement program at Smart Liberian, where you come out of high school and then you go through a gap year program where you're able to work on entrepreneurship, start small ventures, get involved in leadership things. And so when you're applying, you can catch the eye of these people reading an essay, because if you're not interesting, they don't take you. Unfortunately, they want to know what spice or what sauce you can add to their campus, right? And so when you go through professional development, when you volunteer, when you work on projects, when you lead things, when you start things in your community, all of that contributes to making you an interesting candidate. And then whoever is reading your application will want to read it twice if you're interesting enough. And again, it ties into storytelling. So I think professional, like, just to give my colleagues, space to answer, it makes you interesting. If you don't do a lot of professional development, they don't think they can get a lot from you when you get to the campus, and so they'll barely take people who are not developed professionally to enter the schools.
Okay, thank you. That's a really good point. So, when I graduated Cartington, the first job I had was with EcoBank. I did environmental science, graduated top of my department, had my own NGO, so passionate about the environment. Boom. My university sent my name to EcoBank. I took the test, aced the test, and I was offered the job. Come on. What am I doing in internal audit? I used to like to think of myself as an environmentalist. So I talked to my dad, he's my mentor. And GSI wasn't running much at that time. I needed money to support the organization, because if I knew what I know then, I wouldn't have started back then, because I wasn't developed enough to run that NGO. I didn't have the team, I didn't have the support, but I saw people starting organizations and I said, oh, okay, I think I should start one. That was a mistake. So I got the job in the bank. But was that where I wanted to be? Was that the career I wanted for myself? No. So because of that, I kept looking outside. I wasn't finding opportunities here. So I started applying for international programs. The SOA, the High Seas Alliance, the European Development Days Young Leadership Program. I was applying for anything relating to the environment. So I applied for those things. It was through one of those international programs that I got connected to Conservation International Liberia. So the first thing is you need to know where you are going. As I said, you need to be passionate about something. If I start to talk about the marine space here now, you will see how passionate I am about what I do. And that's what drives me. So it was based on how passionate I was about saving the environment, contributing towards saving the environment, that I started to get out in the field, volunteer with EPA, and then I gradually started working with international NGOs. When I was writing my application, I didn't hold back anything. I even mentioned the bank. I don't know why, but I did. Maybe because I wanted to see that I have experience in this thing too. And then I mentioned my work out of Monrovia. I think that was the highlight of my application. I worked outside of Monrovia as a young person. I was in Robertsport, one of the biggest fishing communities. I used that land tire. So I used
Okay.
so I mentioned all of those things. If you are applying for a fisheries program and you say you are the youngest person now in the field in Liberia and you've worked with the fishermen, hands on, you have lived in the community with them, come on. How can somebody reject that application? So you need to know what you are going for. That's the goal. What are the steps are you taking to get there? You can't be trying to apply for a political science degree somewhere and you are basically just volunteering with EJF, trying to get the fish and the fishermen to coordinate and behave. Come on, there will be this division somewhere. So if you are interested in doing this thing, build your career slowly, slowly. International experience, local experience, volunteer, get a job here, there, and then before you start your application, you are already prepared to go for this thing. If you don't have the experience, have the big mouth. Tell you that for free. I mean, maybe you can try to talk your way through, just say how passionate you are and how you really want to do this thing. But it's important that whatever you want to do in school, build your career around that thing so that you have a solid application.
You know, for me as a person with a CV that's so long but has so very small part with with paid jobs. My whole life has always been about volunteering, and I would tell you there are two things that professional development does for you. The first thing is that it makes you one of one, the one of one candidate. Okay, you're just in your own space because everything else that you've told the vector about is that it's just about you and what you've been doing. Professional development. The second question it answers is the experience. The experience, the 10 years of experience that most institutions will ask for is about your volunteerism and every leadership role that you serve. Okay, it covers everything. And so it's just so important for the application process that it sets you apart. It sets you as that one of one candidate. And it has helped me a whole lot. And, I have served in different key roles in student leadership, in community service. I, in fact, serve, one of the things that we neglect here is these Boy Scout organizations. Even President Obama was a Boy Scout. I served in the Boy Scout Association, and then I served different roles as a student leader. I co-funded the Environmental Conservation Club at Cotton University. And you have, so when you're talking about these things to a school or to an institution that you're applying, you become very interesting, like he said. It sets you apart as one of one, and definitely you will get it.
One of the things that I think is very important that I would like to talk on just before we wrap this up, then with the questions and answers, is the idea, and I've heard all of you talk about mentors, right? It's the idea of mentorship. Going to college in the US or in Europe or in Asia, for example, to have someone who walks your path tell you that maybe they have succeeded or failed in what you're attempting to do. I know how important it is to have someone in that space to tell you, Plato, I think one of the core reasons for my success was my rapport or my relationship that I built with individuals who I recognize as mentors. And this man wrote all of my recommendation letters to UP, the three schools I got into for my doctorate, Pennsylvania, Baylor, and Vanderbilt. I had to choose one of them, right? It's my dream school. I want to go to my dream school. I picked my dream school. But Dio and I have been friends for over 12 years now. He's my friend. But when you look in your circle and you find someone that you can personally relate to, your mentor doesn't, I always tell people this, your mentor doesn't have to be President Weah or President Sharif or like then like Barack Obama. We're not on that level yet, right? What I would do Obama. But to find someone who can give you an advice, I want you to quickly tell us the importance of having that in college or going to school overseas.
So my mentor is my dad. I mean, I have professional mentors, but and what he told me is that I hope you are mentally prepared for a master's degree in Europe. Because he did his there. He said you will write, you will write, you will write, you will read, you will read, you will read, and you will get frustrated at a certain point. It was good I had somebody telling me that particular thing. Because it helped me to start reading before I could even get to CE. Like I was already like, okay, I have to read. I'm the only Black person doing this program. I have to be 5 steps ahead. And that's where I stayed until I graduated with an A in my thesis. The only female there, but let's not talk about that. So, sorry, that was just for the fun of it. So my dad is my mentor, and he prepares me. Like he told me what I needed to do, what I needed to read. Plagiarism. You know, he said Liberia, we don't really prioritize this thing. We don't see it as something important. Students go and just copy things from the internet, submit it to lecturers. Entire thesis, you'll go on the internet and you'll find something so similar and nobody will ask you questions. If you do that in any European university, you get penalized. The second time you find a way back to responsibility is what the people did. So he told me those things, and that helped me. You need somebody who has walked the journey before, or somebody who has an experience about this thing to mentally prepare you. It helps you along.
I think we don't highlight the importance of mentorship in Liberia. To be very honest, there's a difference between mentors and models. Okay, you can have somebody that you want to be like. You don't necessarily have any close relationship with them, but like for example, a lot of us would like to be like Nelson Mandela or what's his name? What is this doctor? Yeah. Whoever, right? Whoever you like to be like that, that you don't really know, but you see what they've done, you can follow their story. That person is a model, like they're setting a pattern for you to follow. Mentors have hands on with you. They have hands on with you. They walk through the journey with you. A mentorship relationship has a key component that includes accountability. They hold you accountable. They ensure that you plan stuff, and then they hold you accountable that you follow through. And this is how I have decided to engage mentorship. I think it was since 2020 or 2021. I have professional mentors, I have personal mentors, and I have like 2 or 3 mentors from up to down, right? People who I basically look up to, who've been there, who have succeeded. And then I have peer-to-peer mentors. Like I have friends who are my friends, or may not necessarily know they're my mentors, but like we have that relationship of, holding one another accountable. And then I have people who may consider themselves my mentees, but it's essentially reverse mentorship, because you will learn a lot of things from people who you think you're over than you like. So I have mentors from up to down. I have peer to peer, and then I have mentors who mentor me from their position. You still need to have that childlike vision. Like there are children who just dream without limits. Without boundaries. But growing up in Liberia, you will quickly put boundaries to your dreams. The country will ensure that you put boundaries to your dream. Like a lot of people you will talk to, my man, I want to be chemical engineer. It can't happen yet. It can't happen yet. Like, so somebody who goes to school really wanting to be like a chemical engineer ends up being a DJ. Put your hands in, that's what the country will do to you, right? But if you have somebody who still has that vision, like childlike, dream, and you can dream of whatever it helps. And so that's how I engage mentorship from up to down on the same level. But it's really important. If you don't have a mentor, I would encourage you to find one person that can hold you accountable. And I think that's going to help you along the way.
I think it was never a mistake that Diodone and I were selected as Obama leaders, because we almost think in very similar ways. But in addition to what he said, another way that I see it is to also have something called personal coach. It was introduced during our program, and there's this lady called Dr. Zamina. She's still my personal coach, and those exchanges help you and take you a very long way. One of the most important things throughout all of these things, whether you want to pursue a master's degree or you want to travel to live outside Liberia or whatever career path that you will be choosing, the most important one who might have failed if you want to be, and their greatest success will be making you into who into who they wanted to be. Okay, and that's the most amazing thing about it. Someone failing and trying to stop another person from failing or walking that same path as they have walked. It's so very important. It's so very amazing, and you don't have to have one mentor. You can have so many mentors for different things. You can have a mentor for your spirituality. You can have a mentor for your academic and professional career. You can have mentors for just about anything. And again, there's no age tag to who a mentor can be. A mentor can be your peer. Your mentor could be your sister, your father, too much said. Your mentor can just be anybody in your circle. Okay. My mentor, who is most celebrated right now, Honorable Kopadek Belia, always I like him. He always tell me that the best way to pay mentorship forward is to become a mentor to yourself. So every time community gives you something, the best way to do it is to give back to the community. And this is why I was in Lima recently and officially announced that I'll be launching the Sabwa Foundation. The Sabwa Foundation will serve as a peer-to-peer mentor program where young people will come, we learn their skills, and we use them as mentors for other young people. Because that's how we build our society forward. To have these young people develop their skills, become leaders, and they can also make other leaders. Okay, so those are the kind of things that we will be involved with. And so it's important that I tell you about it. Maybe you might be interested.
Thank you all. Well, thank you. I mean, these are brilliant responses for some of these questions that were just not so jotted down. But I want to first of all thank you all for sharing your experiences with us and for giving us something that, as a lot of people taking notes, but it is indeed an honor and a privilege to sit in your presence and to have a conversation like this. We will have questions. I don't know how you're going to moderate the questions, but come through. Okay. Am I part of the question too, or do I?
No, you just need to sit there. Kylie, please, can we just do the space? You are back there, but you are back there. Can you just close the space? Please. I mean, the line isn't going out well. At the back, please. All of you at the back. From there. From there, the lady with the glasses. Yeah, you look at me with the shades. The brown hair top. Cut from there. All of you are coming from.
Si me go meter a no cover yo sé que le pague por una vez. Yo te jale con el spotlight. Come to the spotlight.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for the patience. Let's take the question. We'll take 6 questions. 6. And I'll be a little bit biased a bit. We gave okay, let's do 7. We'll give female 4. No, 5. No, 4. Yeah, they'll give 3. Yeah? All right. So we'll do it that way. Make sure the question is in a minute 30 seconds or 1 minute. The question can be asked 1 minute.
Don't let the business.
Don't do all that thing. Yeah? So we'll take a minute and then each of our panelists will also respond to that. All right, so let's take you first. Yeah?
Thank you very much, our panelists. My name is Mani Bishari. I am an academic enthusiast. So I listened to you very well, deliberating answers. And I have a couple of times applied for international scholarships. I have been rejected or denied. But many times in my applications, the things I have always observed, they will ask you for. Many times in my applications, I have always observed they will ask you to write a personal statement. And this personal statement, many a times we write, it can be very challenging, especially the discipline you're going for. So I have tried in writing. I will write in my own ways, and I ask some people to help me edit, and they do it, and I can be denied. And so we would like to know what are the processes and how do you write, how do you prepare or tailor these personal statement in applying for these scholarships and you're accepted. And I would also want to know, either of you, it will be good enough that you people with this experience share your personal information with us. Because the challenge that personally, I don't know for everyone, before I go through is to get the kind of person who is willing to really sit with you and discuss this is how you write. Because you will say you're going to write this way, you want to write this way, but if someone is not guiding you, it can be very difficult. These are some of the challenges I go through. So you can't help us.
Okay, so personal statement, straight to the answer.
Great.
When you're writing a personal statement, don't start with, I'm Olivia Precious Livingston, I was born in Liberia, I've lived there. No. They already have that in your bio. They don't need that. So what I've learned over the years, you go straight to the point. The first thing is, it's always good to have a catchy introduction. So in Liberia, climate change is doing this. Fishermen that are losing their livelihood. IUU fishing is taking over the country. You have to give this story, and then you say why you are interested in this. But what you do is to add numbers. This is the most important thing I've learned. So I helped mentor few people, and several fishermen came to me for advice. Several what? So instead, what you do is I wrote this personal statement, and I added numbers. So I formed VSLAs in the communities. Over 300 women benefited from this VSLA. One of the women named her daughter after me because how inspired she was because of the work I'm doing. You give numbers. Those are the things that you do. You don't just say, I'm this, I'm that, and then why this program? Because the university wants to know how they can help you. So make sure you include why do you want to do this program? Why this university? Read their website. Just read. So you know the research they are involved with. Are you also interested in similar research? And then you just make sure you push that in. After pushing that in, before you conclude, what are your short and long-term goals? What attractive thing, of course, you will come and say, I will contribute to impacting the lives of Liberians. Come on, how? So I will come and we already have this NGO. You have this RNGO. You have the government. What are they doing right now? Maybe they're trying to contribute towards the Paris Agreement. Okay, how can you contribute to that? Be specific, mention names, give numbers. Let the person start reading and keep reading until the end. They should get it and be like, oh, next. No. Keep it attractive. Give numbers. Explain your stories. Say your goals, not just I will come, I will work. No. What is the government interested in right now? The people, what are they doing? What are they focusing on? How can you contribute to helping them achieve that goal? Those are the specifics you are supposed to provide. Don't just be generic. So I will come back, I will help you at Smart Liberia, So I will help with the restaurant there. Come on. Give specifics, like just give numbers, and that will help. That will help. It helps me, it can help you too.
Oh, so just take someone to add up, and then we'll go back.
This that she's explaining is possible if you focus on your professional development, right? Because I wanted to tell Olivia to start speaking English because she established VSLAs. I don't even know what that is, right? But she did that. Like she established that she was in the field, and so it means something to her because she did something. A lot of us are trying to write personal statements from a place of I just want to go to school. And we haven't done anything at all. So we don't have numbers. We don't have experiences. The thing that we're trying to apply for, it really doesn't mean anything to us. Last, we just want to leave Liberia. And so if you write from that place, it becomes difficult. So exert intentional efforts in developing yourself professionally. Take part in all of those things, your community development, and capitalize on your experiences. And so then you start to write, what she's talking about, and then it becomes easier. Yeah.
Let me just take 30 seconds quickly to add a comment. The first thing, Africa, when you mention in Africa, there's a huge problem. Africa has a whole lot of problems. Guess what? You and I can describe the same problem in different ways, and I could be accepted to a program. So, for example, who's in this crowd right now want to be a doctor? Fine. I'll share with you a simple statistics. In 2016, the Liberian Medical and Dental Association published a report that Liberia had 298 doctors. Since then, there's been no other report published till date. That is a working statistics that you can use when you're applying to school. Liberia has 298 doctors for a population of 2.5 million people. The patient-to-doctor ratio is 1 to 15,000. And then what? WHO sets the patient-to-doctor ratio 1 to 1,000, right? We're still so very far from it, and I think I can do this, and that to help to reduce it. So the statistics is very
find the problem and solve the problem. So what we'll do, be specific to out of these people, yeah? So we not stay long that long. So be specific. Say you're sending your question to, if you think Olivia can answer your question specifically, just send it to her. All right? So let's do that. So we take you. We're doing the meal. Female, get ready. If you're ready, we'll pick you up. Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Crystal 14 Baba Jr., a student at Cottington University, your alma mater. And as a young person, just coming out of high school last year, September, entering Cottington University, I wanted to study biology. So at times, I go on the G stand, take my laptop, I want to apply, to study abroad. Because my dream is to become a neurologist. So I don't know where to start from. So my own question goes to Olivia. Where do I start from?
Okay, so you just started at Cottington, right?
Yeah.
And you want to go to do your BSc. Okay, so you need to know where you want to go. Like, so you've already identified what you want to do. So which university do you think offers this program? And which university do you think will give you the skills you need to come back or stay there and build the career you want? So you start by going through the internet and finding universities that offer this program. So you have a list. Let's say you have the top 5 universities. After that, you now have your universities. You go through the requirements. So mostly for BSc, they don't really look for experience. Like they don't go looking for years of experience. But maybe there is this GPA. There is this test, especially for science students. Maybe there is this test you need to take. And then you start, once you see the test and you know if it's in biology, if it's in chemistry, you start preparing yourself for that journey. So you can start studying, you can start reading, and then you start writing your application. So I don't think BSc should be that difficult. So you write your applications and you start studying for your test. If you can't take any Liberia, unfortunately, most tests you have to leave the country. You start raising money, start discussing with your family, how they can get you out of here. But first thing, have a list of universities, maybe 3, maybe 5, and then check the requirements, check the criteria, and then you can move on to start studying for tests, go on and take the test, send in your application, and be prepared for bad news. Tons and tons of bad news. I got them, I cried, I moved. So you need to do the same, and gradually you get there. But just have a look.
Okay, so let's take her. Lady. Yes, please.
Yes.
Please tell me your questions. Yeah. When you ask a question, tell them you want to answer your question. Be specific. Let's go.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Princess Emma Davis. The executive director of Awake Book Club. So this question goes to the guy wearing the Tada shirt. Sorry, I didn't know your name. To you. All right. So most scholarships are for people who do not have the financial backing to go to school. So what do you do if you're already in a university that is considered as a 5-star, 4-star in your country? So when you apply, you need to label the name of the university you're attending. So what do you do in that kind of situation? Do you have to fake it to fit in, or do you need to be real?
Thank you, Princess. Scholarships are scholars. They're not for people from, at least this is what I know. They're not for people from rich or poor backgrounds. All right. If you're a scholar, you deserve a scholarship. That's it. And so when it's really funny if we start talking about five-star university Liberia versus, but let's not do that because because if you apply from a five-star here to, unfortunately, I don't even like to say this, but a two-star somewhere else, you would see that start. I just put this up, right? So as long as you're a scholar, you deserve a scholarship. You go after it. It doesn't matter what school you're in. It doesn't matter your family background. If you can tell your story, if you have the grace to back it up, if you have the personal statement to back it up, if you have the zest and you're interesting enough, you deserve that scholarship.
Let's take you. A little louder, please.
My question is
Bill.
All right.
most of the time, applying for scholarship, we always ask for the SAT scores in the TOEFL, and we are not really doing SAT. So how do we do that?
Thank you.
Well, believe it or not, that question was not meant for me. It was meant for Dylan Perry, because Perry works with Small Liberia, who facilitate most of those exams. But me giving it to him doesn't mean I don't want to answer your question. But I think he has the expertise in that. But one thing I can tell you about the TOEFL, we're not allowed to take that because this is an English-speaking country, so that should be automatically waived. But the SATs and the ACTs, like I said to you all, when I went to the US, I failed my placement exam. This is me being vulnerable to you. I did graduate with the summa cum because exam doesn't define who I am, but I did fail my exam. I failed my entrance exam or my placement exam. But the materials to do that is, believe it or not, I trust you. The data is the megabyte is on Facebook. That same megabyte to the put it on Facebook can give you ACT information on YouTube. There's nothing you cannot learn on the internet. But Perry, I don't know how the program works.
Right.
For the ACT.
I don't know when last you applied to a school, but again, a lot of universities in the US, they're getting to understand that these exams, like Abdullah said, cannot be the only defining factor of a student, especially given that you're coming from a place in Africa like Liberia, right? But if you have to take the SATs, they offer the SATs in Liberia, right? Smart Liberia, the organization I lead, run SAT preps on like a cohort basis. So if there's a December test, we might run a 4-month prep. If there's a March test, we might run a 3-month prep from the beginning of the year. So like that, okay? So if you want to prepare for the SAT, Smart Liberia can help you. I think it's offered by the U.S. Embassy through Stella Maris campus. Again, like you said, TOEFL is test of English as foreign language. So if you can properly tell your story and show that you did English in high school, college, you don't have to take it. Okay, but yeah.
Let's take the guy. The guy close it. You closing it from the guys, and then we take two female. I already got
My question will
two.
be directed to this.
See that?
My question will be directed to
Okay, go ahead.
I had gone through the application process. It's very tedious, and I mean, it need hard work, right? But then there are so many things that are not applicable in Liberia that these people want. For instance, I applied at NYU, New York University, right? After reading all of the necessary things that I needed to do, I was interned for an email that I should create a CSS profile that talks about tax return, all of that we not necessarily do in Liberia. So because of tax return, I believe that I was denied admission because I could not give proper information about such a thing, and something like student affidavit and student financial, international information and stuff like that. The admission can't use when it comes to that.
Question.
I don't know, how can I go about
with Student International or Financial Information Form or building the CSL profile. In as much I got a fee waiver for the CSL profile from NYU because I was in direct communication with the admission office and stuff like that. But then I believe that why I got a no was because I did not provide the right information.
So you're asking for strategy.
So many things that they asked for was not applicable. I didn't know how it worked. I think that was
You're basically asking for strategy, right?
So
okay.
The only thing I can tell you right now is two things. One, you did the wrong application. Two, you did not ask the right question. The international office at any university, when I was in college doing my undergrad, I used to work as in the international student office, and similar questions that came in the office, right? People from Saudi Arabia, we had a lot of Asians coming to our school, and that same document that you asked, I applied to the school, and I did not have to do that. I believe that when we've been faced in our application process, when we are faced with things that doesn't apply to us or in our country, the first thing you need to do is to send an email out to them. That's the number one thing you need to do. Say, hey, this does not apply to my country. I guarantee you that there is a way around that. Number one. Number two, I know two people, one got accepted into your school as an international student. He didn't have to do that. So I know people who went to the school that you applied to who are international students that bypassed that. So the second thing you might need to do, and that goes to everybody, is make use of LinkedIn, right? I spend more time on my LinkedIn profile than I do on Facebook or Instagram. Because on Facebook, I just talk nonsense. I talk my nonsense, I go my business. But when you go on LinkedIn, your network, right, you can easily navigate around that school's profile. You can find students in the closest proximity. You see me, you might see Perry, you might see Livingstone. You may see someone that you can easily relate to, connect with them and say, hey, this is something like. You might see the admissions counselor right there. You might see the school's registrar. You might see the international office right there. So prioritize that as well. But I think the reason why you were faced with that is because, again, we did not ask the right question. And don't get deterred when someone tells you provide this information. You're like, I don't have it, and you sit down, right? Because the information is there. They know that all of us are not from America, so they should not be expecting tax paper from us. So we just did not ask the right question.
Okay, so we'll take the female. Close up on the guys, please. Sorry. Just take the female. We took 3 guys already, except 4 female.
My name is Quisa Kodai.
We have a next presentation, so sorry. We have to start.
I work with Tribe as program assistant. The question goes out to Theodore. My question is, how do you have an honest peer-to-peer mentorship with colleagues or friends that push you into a leadership role because you tried at versatility? How do you have an honest peer-to-peer mentorship with friends or colleagues that push you into a leadership role because you tried at versatility?
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question. But let me call 2 of my peer-to-peer mentors. One is Wayne. Okay, yeah. So we are friends on a personal and a professional level. All right, Wayne has helped me with a lot of things, like professionally, likewise. And it doesn't have to be specific to. Unfortunately, we work in similar spaces, right? But it doesn't have to be specific to the field or anything. It's just about sometimes the perspective, sometimes the mindset, sometimes what he has conquered, I'm struggling with. Sometimes what I have conquered, he's struggling with. And so peer-to-peer mentorship is being able to hold him accountable, and him being able to hold me accountable for what I say I want to do, or what he says he wants to do, right? Also offering opportunities. If I know that, okay, Obama Foundation, next application, I have to nominate leaders. If he's interested, I share that opportunity with him and others who are interested as well. If he has opportunities, he shared that with so peer-to-peer mentorship is not specific to fields or anything. No matter how diverse you are, you can still collaborate, you can still work together, and you can still learn. Well, I'm a Christian, so the Bible says, "As iron sharpens iron," right? So does a man sharpen the countenance of his friend. And so we work together, even though we work in different fields. I don't know if that answers your question.
I can.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so from what I've learned, when it comes to peer-to-peer mentorship, one thing you need to know is that you need to be humble. Because it's easier to listen to someone who's up there, someone you see as this star, this role model, than to listen to a friend. I mean, especially if you are friends in the workspace and you are friends in the club, you are friends on the beer table. So certain, and then you know this person's weaknesses. So if the person is trying to talk to you about certain things, and then your pride starts to come on. I mean, I have been to this place, I have done this thing, and I know it's not like this is your strongest point. You will learn from that person because your ego is way up there. So if you want your friend to serve as your mentor, you need to look at that person as a mentor at that particular time. You can't be looking at this person as a boyfriend anyway. Or you be saying, well, she could be twagging in the club that no, you can't look at that person that way. So you listen, no matter how much you think you have achieved more than this person, if you think this person can help you in this direction or help to put you on this path, you listen at that point. And that's your ego on one side. That's it for me. That's how I do peer to peer. I feel as a mentor in that moment.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
I just want to add something to it. You have to choose your friends very wisely, because the thing is, it's not just every friend who gives you a piece of advice at a particular point in time is a peer-to-peer mentor. No, it's about someone who has a priority script, who is also ready to push themselves with the same energy as you. So you both have to be on some path, fighting for different goals, okay, and supporting each other. For example, if Diodone sees a scholarship uh, for someone who wants to do maybe a master's in any of the sciences, he will easily relate to me. If I see something in education, I will easily relate to him, because we have individual goals. We're running our individual race. So peer-to-peer mentor is not like you are running the same race. Okay, you could be running the same race and still be peer-to-peer mentors, but often it's about running separate races in different personal spaces, but helping each other win. That's what I think it is.
Okay, let's take the female then.
Is that the last one?
Where is she? Someone up here or up?
Yeah, you know,
Oh, you put it down?
I'm gonna make you
Oh,
female.
okay, so let's take this guy. I'll wave it. We'll wave it to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Female.
Alfonso D. Commander.
Who?
Alfonso D. Commander.
What?
Alfonso D. Commander.
Who I am?
Okay. I'm a student in the university. Okay. I want to know the age limit for an undergraduate. For what kind of graduate? An undergraduate, the age limit for. When I was graduating for undergrad, I was a woman who was 76 years old. She graduated with me. No, I'm talking about when you're applying
all glass and have to allow them to step down those let's start with that.
All right, thank you. So, I bet you what I'm going to say is not to so small. But you can. The only thing you cannot be in this world is the things that you don't want to be. There are enormous possibilities for the things you can be. There is MySpace for the young scholar from Covington who usually for the MySpace, right? There are so many schools there for high school students who want to apply. Like he talked about, there are a lot of open spaces for free education online, the Way Scholars Program. Take advantage this year. Push yourself, hit new high, and you will become who you want to be. Thank you.
This is inspiring. It's hard to go after that. But they will tell you no. Just get ready to hear a lot of no's. No may not necessarily mean you're not good enough. It may just mean not yet. Okay? So get ready to hear a lot of no's. Don't internalize rejection. You know, we've cried past rejections and we move. You know, you will not see rejection written on my forehead. But rejection, but I get it. I've had it one, right? Two, be patient. Like our generation is really drawn towards instant gratification. I'm out of high school, I need to go to America tomorrow, I need to go to Europe. It doesn't happen like that sometimes. It takes a while, right? So be patient, never stop. Don't ever stop trying. Don't ever stop trying. Don't stop applying. Keep writing your story, keep re-evaluating your story, keep asking people to edit, just don't stop, right? And finally, don't find your niche. Identify your niche. Don't see because one person was a Obama scholar and got interviewed by the Rolling Stone. That means you're about to apply to the Obama program and be interviewed by the Rolling Stone. What might be said for you might be way bigger than Rolling Stone or Trevor Noah show, but you know you limit yourself if you want to be exactly like others. Okay, so find your niche. You will hear no. Don't stop. Be patient. That's all I have to tell you.
Okay, so you need to build your career. You need to focus on professional development. I tell you that for free. Because you're not just living Liberia because you want to leave. Don't join the bandwagon on that. We need to live there just to country, you know. This is everyone's country. So if you are leaving, leave because you are going to school, leave because maybe there is this opportunity, but not because Olivia said CEU in Vienna is a really big university, and you don't even have any interest in any of the programs, but you want to leave Liberia, you're just so passionate about leaving Liberia. That's not the way to do it. So focus on while you are waiting, build yourself. Find that niche, find that passion. Passion drives you. I tell you that for free. You need to be passionate about this thing. You need to wake up every morning and want to continue doing this thing. That's how you achieve what you're achieving. You need to be so passionate to the point that even if you get rejected today, you start to look for the next application to work. This is the goal we want to achieve. So that's the spirit that you need to have. And in everything, there will be mistakes, there will be failures, but you need to be willing to make tough decisions, really tough decisions. I didn't attend my graduation from my master's program because I wanted to come back and do my research here. I got back, it was too expensive to go, and I had to attend my program on YouTube. I cried that day. But my research, I did a couple of publications, and now NAPA is using it, so it paid. That was a tough decision for me. Be willing to make tough decisions. And let Dr. Spy be the name.
Wow.
I mean, I think I've said
that.
it.
We'll tell the guys. So somebody just kind of told me, well, okay, let us do a picture. Yes, go ahead.
I think they've all said enough. I've said enough as well. It's baby steps. Just put Liberia first. Everybody trying to leave this country should not. My friends know I'm moving back home, right? So it's not just about I'm leaving the country and coming back. It's about having a set vision, and the reason I'm moving backwards is because this is my vision. I want to do this with my degree. When I'm done with school, I want to work in my village. That's me. Everybody's different, but that's what I want to do. And so, find something that you love to do. Use it. If you go there, you stay at Bennett, but use it to your advantage. That's all I gotta say, man. And hopefully, the next time we come back here to have these conversations, some of you will be up on the panel sharing your stories of success.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So just 1 minute, just get up. Yeah, man.
So thank you for watching the
Don't worry,
first
stay here.
segment.
You after the
Thank
network.
you for watching the first segment of the
That's like,
television of
everybody, get up.
Symposium in the Monrovia City Hall Theater. We will be back shortly with another one.
Yeah, man. Let's see you. No, do your own. Do your own. Do your own thing. Tell your body. Tell your